Okay, so this is part two of section 7.1, and we are going to talk about cell reproduction, tissues, and organs. So at the end of this, you should be able to explain cell reproduction, compare the four types of tissue by describing the basic function of each type, and explain the relationships among cells, tissues, organs, and systems. Excuse me. So cells reproduce through mitosis. It's an asexual reproduction process. Skin cells, blood-forming cells, and intestinal tract cells reproduce continuously. Muscle cells only reproduce every few years, but muscle tissue can be enlarged with exercise. Nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord do not reproduce after birth. So that is why if someone has a spinal cord injury, it's usually they don't produce new cells to regenerate to fix that injury. If these cells are damaged or destroyed, others are not formed to replace them, so therefore the injury stays the same. So cell reproduction is called mitosis. So prior to mitosis, the chromatin material in the nucleus condenses to form chromosomes, and an exact duplicate of each chromosome is made. Each chromosome then consists of two identical strands called chromatids, joined together by a structure called a centromere. When mitosis begins, the two centrioles and the centrosome move to the opposite ends of the cell. And later on, I will have pictures so you can have a visual aid of this. A spindle of thread-like fibers trails from the centrioles. The nuclear membrane disappears and the pairs of duplicated chromosomes attach to the spindles at the center of the cell. The chromatids then split from their duplicated halves and move to opposite ends of the cell. Each end now has 46 chromosomes, or 23 pairs. The cytoplasma divides and a new cell membrane forms to create two new identical cells. So this is what it looks like. We first have the interphase, which is the longest part of the cell cycle. This is when the cell grows and copies its DNA before moving into mitosis. So prophase is when the chromosomes condense, spindle fibers form between the centrioles, which move toward the opposite poles. Metaphase is when the microtubule spindle apparatus attaches to the chromosomes. The chromosomes align along the spindle equator. So as you can see, all the chromosomes are in the middle here. The anaphase, the sister chromatids separate and move to opposite ends. So now you can see they have separated, and they are starting to form into two cells. The telophase, the chromatids arrive at each pole and the new nuclear membranes form. Cell division begins. So this will then cut off completely, and you will have two cells, which they call daughter cells. And that's when the cell division is complete. Each cell receives chromosomes that are identical to those in the original nucleus. Sex cells go through meiosis. Sex cells or gametes divide by a process known as meiosis. They use two separate cell divisions to produce 4 new cells instead of 2 in mitosis. The female cells or the male cells divide by meiosis. The number of chromosomes is reduced to 23. When an ovum and sperm join to create a new life, the zygote or new cell has 46 chromosomes. Immediately after the ovum and sperm join to form a zygote, the zygote begins a period of rapid meiotic division. Within 4 to 5 days, the zygote is a hollow ball-like mass of cells called a blastocyst. Within the blastocyst are embryonic or stem cells. The stem cells can transform themselves into any of the body's specialized cells and perform many different functions. So there's lots of controversial as to whether to use stem cells or not in research. So scientists would like to be able to use stem cells and see if they can have them specialize into maybe spinal cord cells so that they could help heal spinal cord injuries, or can they use stem cells to eliminate Parkinson's disease? Stem cells are found in the in the 4 to 5 day old zygote. And then they're also found in the placenta and umbilical cord. So some parents have saved the umbilical cord or their placenta of their child. So therefore, if in the future, if that child needs stem cells, then they have those cells that they can use. It is a lot of money, so many people are not able to afford that. So there is stem cell research going on though. So this is what meiosis looks like. You have phase 1 and you have phase 2. The names of them are the same as in mitosis, but you have the 2 phases because you're going to divide into 4 separate cells. So as you can see, during the phase 1, it divides into 2 cells, and then into phase 2, then it's going to divide further, and so that you have 4 cells. So tissue is the cells of the same type are joined together. Tissues are 60 to 99% water. So as you can see, it's important to get your water in. Water is slightly salty in nature and is called tissue fluid. Dehydration occurs when there's insufficient tissue fluid, and then edema occurs when there's swelling of the tissues due to excess fluid. There's 4 groups of tissues. There's epithelial tissue, and it covers the surface of the body and is the main tissue in the skin. And here's some different types of epithelial tissue. It also forms the lining of the intestinal, respiratory, circulatory, and urinary tracts, as well as that of other body cavities. It forms the body glands, where it specializes to produce specific secretions for the body, such as mucus and digestive juices. There's also connective tissue, and is the supporting fabric of organs and other body parts. There's 2 main classes. There's soft, which includes adipose or fatty tissue, which stores fat as a food reserve or a source of energy, insulates the body, fills the area between tissue fibers, and acts as padding. There's also hard. Cartilage is a tough, elastic material that is found between the bones of the spine and at the end of long bones. It acts as a shock absorber and allows for flexibility. Bone has calcium salts, nerves, and blood vessels called osseous tissue. Connective tissue also includes blood and lymph, and it's called liquid connective tissue or vascular tissue. Blood carries nutrients and oxygen to the body cells and carries metabolic waste away from cells. The lymph tissue transports tissue, fluid, proteins, fats, and other materials from the tissue to the circulatory system. This is what different types of connective tissue looks like. You have bone here, you have hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage. This is what blood looks like, adipose tissue, which is your fat. We also have nerve tissue, which is made up of special cells called neurons. Controls and coordinates body activities by transmitting messages throughout the body. Nerves, brain, and spinal cord are composed of nerve tissue. So here's your, this is what your nervous tissue looks like, and this is a neuron. Muscle tissue produces power and movement by contraction of muscle fibers. There's 3 main kinds. There's skeletal, which attaches to the bones and provides for movement of the body. There's cardiac, which causes the heart to beat. And there's visceral, which is smooth, and it presents in the walls of the respiratory, digestive, urinary tract, and blood vessels. And here's the different types of muscle tissue. You have the your biceps, triceps, skeletal muscles, your cardiac muscle, and then the smooth muscles found that moves food, urine, and reproduction tract secretions. So organs are 2 or more tissues joined together for a specific purpose. Systems are organs and other body parts joined together for a particular function. So here's your different body systems. You have digestive, endocrine, integumentary, the lymphatic, muscular, nervous, reproductive, respiratory, skeletal, and urinary. And we're going to talk about all of these systems in Chapter 7. So in summary, the cells combine to form tissue, tissue combines to form organs, and organs and other body parts combine to form systems. The systems working together help create the miracle called the human body. So we have the atoms at the smallest, molecules, micromolecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organs, organ system, and then you have the organism. So that's it for 7-1. Again, make sure you check Google Classroom and do your homework, and check with me if you have any questions.